Hi, Chris Erskine, artist, and this is my weekly update. Again, we're back to the Hermitage ruins out in Ancaster. On Tuesday, the Hamilton Conservation Authority returns to the Hamilton Heritage Permits Review Subcommittee, I got the title right, to discuss what to do with the Hermitage ruins. Now, where it's been left off is the Permits Committee has suggested that their proposals, the proposal to Hamilton Conservation Authority is to reduce the current structure down to a height of about 3 feet from its current height of 25 to 35 feet, depending on where you get your information from. There's different talks about that. Reduce it down, level it out, and there'll be a little bit higher around the entrance, but basically it'll be like a low wall around of the existing, and that'll be all the stone structures you see there. That's what's going to happen, or what they want to happen. The Permits Committee is arguing that there should be that their proposals are too pristine. It makes it look like a wall around a garden, and that it should look more like a ruins, and that they're encouraging the Conservation Authority to save more of the wall, maybe bring it up a little bit higher. But no one's talking about saving the structure as is, which I find shameful on both part of the Hamilton Conservation Authority and on the part of the Hamilton Heritage Permits Review Subcommittee. This is an historic designated building. It's been designated by the city of Ancaster, the town of Ancaster, by the city of Hamilton, and by the province of Ontario. It's critical to the history of Ancaster from the days when before you had antibiotics, and so people had sort of looked for any kind of remedies to deal with health issues. The sulfur springs there were considered had curative powers, and people would travel there and try to use the spas to recoup their health, and so it became sort of like a health spa area. Became very famous from what I understand, and was very critical to, it played an important part of the history. The building itself is, it stems out of that. The owner, it was originally a Presbyterian minister, and then he sold it to the fellow who built the current structure you see there, the stone structure, in the 1850s, so 1854, 1855. The structure existed till about the 1940s. Then there was a fire, and it destroyed most of the roof and some of the walls and the interior. The woman who lived there, who's the daughter of the original owners of the thing, couldn't bear to leave, and she lived there till she died, which I think was around 1944, 47, somewhere in that range there. Then the property passed into private hands. Around 1970, the Conservation Authority purchased the lands, made it part of the park system there, and that's where we are at now. Over the past 40 years, the Conservation Authority has commissioned a number of reports. They haven't really done anything with the property. They've done some minor preservation work, but not really much, not very extensive work. It came to a head in the 1990s. There was a recommendation to do full restoration work. I think at the time was going to be about $140,000. Conservation Authority balked at that. They came back with a scaled down version that was around $35,000. The Conservation Authority wouldn't even spend that money at that time, and so Conservation Authority kicked in around $12,000, put it out to the community that if they loved the place so much they can pay for it, and they fundraised in the community, raising the balance, and basically made up with a significant donation private donor. So now here we are, less than 20 years later, and the ruins are in, again, bad shape. They fenced it off, the walls are slanting in, you can visibly see this, and they're saying for two reasons. One, there's a safety issue, and there's a financial issue. The safety issues are twofold. One, they're saying people are climbing the walls and they're afraid that people will fall off the walls and injure themselves, and then hold the Hamilton Conservation Authority liable. The other issue is that because the walls are unstable, they say that they're unstable, they're worried that some of those stones might fall off and hit people, and while they put up fencing around it, people are crawling under the fence, between the fence and over the fence to get into the property and to climb the walls, and they're worried that in the process of doing this that they will injure themselves. Well, let's deal with the climbing the walls first. If it's properly restored and someone falls off the walls, that is no different than any other, many other features in the city. Just a good example would be Dundurn Castle and their entrance gate. If that was the case, if that was a criteria for tearing something down, then those gates should come down as well, because people could easily climb those walls, fall off and hurt themselves, and hold Dundurn Castle liable, or the city of Hamilton. So, you know, I think common sense has to play a part here. You don't climb the walls. If you do, you assume some liability. The issue of the walls not being stable and that something might fall off if someone crawls through the gates and that sort of thing, assuming that they don't do proper restoration and they just leave it as is, well, if you put proper fencing up, put proper signage up, that should absolve you of any liability. If someone is foolish enough to disregard the fencing that will prevent you from accidentally walking into the area and getting hit by a falling stone, or if there's signage there that clearly indicates that you shouldn't go in there because if you do, you face the chance of having something hit your head and injuring yourself. If people still do that, crawl on, make a determined effort to get around the barriers that you put up, then that's their problem, and I really think a reasonable third party would come to the conclusion that the Hamilton Conservation Authority is not responsible. So the financial side, so the safety side, I think, is red herring. The financial side is also a red herring. The Hamilton Conservation Authority is a very large organization. We're not talking a homeowner here. We're not talking they're on par with a developer, really. I understand they have large financial responsibilities, and the quoted cost of doing a full restoration is about $1 million, though that may include some other work that's not included in the actual structure, like the gatehouse and maybe some other things to do on the property. That's a lot of, even if you accept $1 million, and I'll take the word for it, $1 million, if properly planned, setting money aside over a number of years, then the hit on their budget, on their annual budget, can be manageable. In addition, they also have access to the foundation that supports Pioneer Village and the native artifacts that are on the properties, that sort of thing. So they have the means and wherewithal to do the proper work if they choose to do it. But it really comes to a question of values. They do not value the property, and therefore they're not willing to put the money in. And I really find this sort of really backward thinking. It's such a rich site. It evokes, there's a lot of folklore, and I know people make fun of the fact that people feel that it might be haunted, that sort of thing, but it sparks the imagination of people. And one of the biggest challenges with dealing with the past and history is making it come to life for people in the moment. And for whatever reason, the Hermitage ruins really sparks into people a connection with the site, the ghost story, the romantic nature nature of the site, the fact that you discovered these ruins in the middle of the woods, really gets you a sense of what it must have been like in the early days when your neighbor would be miles away. It really evokes the imagination to a time when we were more connected with the land, more connected with the seasons. It's a wonderful resource. It's a wonderful structure, and you know, many other heritage buildings would love to have that kind of history associated with them, and that sort of sparking of the public's imagination. And it's only a failure of the imagination on other people's part that we're coming to this kind of desperate turn of events. So it really comes down to the value. You know, I'm standing here in front of Winston Churchill Park, one of my favorite areas. I've done numerous paintings in this here area. I run the perimeter of the park through the trails in the back. They have the bird sanctuary over here, under aviary, I should say. It's a wonderful area, and the only reason it's here is because originally this was going to be housing development, and the fellow who was originally going to be developing the subdivision here went bankrupt, and through good fortune it got turned over to the city and became a public park. Unfortunately, that sort of thinking doesn't seem to exist this much anymore. We have downtown, we have the schools in the inner city, in the inner core of the Hamilton, who are being shut down, and it's not like they want to convert it over to public lands and into parks or into community centers like the Robert Lands Community Center, which is a wonderful facility that's a former 1912 school. No, they want to sell it off and reap the benefits of the financial benefits with it. There's no sense of the fact that these monies were invested by the community for schools, and therefore when the school, it stops being a school, it should come back to the community. No, it's this type of thinking that's happening in the community that's really holding us back from being great. And you know, I find the thinking that's going on the Hamilton Conservation Authority and even the permits community, how much they're willing to let go to be destroyed when they're actually there to save and protect heritage, is amazing. So unless there's facts that I'm not aware of, and if they are, I apologize, but to my mind I just really cannot understand it. I do appreciate the fact that the Hamilton Conservation Authority has huge financial responsibilities as far as maintaining lands, trails, and water management. I understand that poses significant financial challenges, and balancing the budget must be a very difficult task, but they can't just define this out of their strategic plan and say we're not responsible for it. They bought the property knowing it was there. They've not really done anything, as far as I can see, serious in maintaining the property in the 40 odd years. I think it's time to live up to their responsibilities, do a proper full restoration of the Hamilton, the Hermitage ruins, and respect the history that you have inherited. Thanks very much. Till next time, take care. Bye.